Okay, hi everyone. I think we are live. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Nikki, and I post videos here on YouTube about sometimes my writing, my editing work, and also all the other things I enjoy, like reading and learning languages. And it's the things I enjoy we're here for today. It's the end of the month, and I am doing a wrap-up vlog just to give you a quick overview of what I've been watching during November. So let me just remove the banner here. There we go. Okay, I've watched a few things over the last few weeks. First of all, the Japanese Film Festival was on here in Australia, but not unfortunately here in Adelaide. I was pretty miffed actually. We didn't get the Japanese one or the Korean one. They've both been on recently or are still on. And all the other states seem to get it, even Canberra got it, but we didn't get it in Adelaide for some reason. Um, for the Korean one, that meant I couldn't watch anything, which was a bit sad. But for the Japanese one, they did allow online streaming for free of a couple of titles. So I did watch some of those that I hadn't seen before. So first up, I watched Gone, the Little Fox. This is an animation, just a half-hour piece. And it's quite a sort of poignant story, a bit sad as well, about this mischievous little fox who one day tries to mend his ways and help the person he's previously tricked, but it doesn't all go according to plan, or it has a sort of a sad ending, let's say. This was a really cute animation, and as I said, a sad but really sweet little story. The next one I watched was a drama called Little Nights, Little Love. So this is kind of a romantic drama. It was an enjoyable piece. It's a sort of relationship studies of these different couples. It's not one I'd rush to watch again, but it was definitely worth having a watch of once. And finally, my favourite of the three I watched was The Great Passage. And this was a book about a young man trying to create a dictionary. Which perhaps doesn't sound very exciting, but I really enjoyed seeing the struggles they were going through, putting the dictionary together, the way they went about it, and there is a kind of romance and relationship element as well to the story. So moving on to things I watched on DVD, I bought a couple of DVDs recently. The first was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the latest Marvel film, or one of the latest. There's been a bit of a onslaught of Marvel movies lately, not in a bad way, but just a lot to keep up with, all coming out close together. I really enjoyed this. I knew nothing about the character, so I went in with no expectations. I think too, coming after Black Widow, and I enjoyed Black Widow, but it was a good movie, but it just lacked that kind of big fantasy action element that most of Marvel's films do have. So it was good to get back into that with this film and have all those huge action sequences going on. It was a good story. I liked the acting. There was some great humor. As I said, brilliant action scenes and great animation. So it really got me in the Marvel mood again. So I'm looking forward to seeing Eternals and the new Spider-Man. I'm probably not going to the cinema for them just because I don't have time. So I probably will end up waiting for the DVDs, but they seem to be coming out fairly quickly after the film's release lately, so that's good. Hopefully I can see them both by early in the new year. And the other DVD I bought recently was the original Rurouni Kenshin live-action trilogy. I first discovered Rurouni Kenshin through the two new Netflix movies. And so I wanted to go back and see the original films, because when I watched Rurouni Kenshin, the final, I was coming into it with no knowledge of anything about the story. And I still enjoyed it, but I kind of wanted to get that backstory. And so I really enjoyed watching these three movies. They're just great fun films. There's a bit of action, some drama and emotion going on as well. If you like kind of samurai style fighting, then it's definitely worth watching these movies. And sticking with Rurouni Kenshin, but moving on to Netflix, I did watch the other one that's on Netflix, The Beginning. I liked this because it gave us the backstory behind some of the stuff that was talked about in the final. It's interesting that they decided to do them that way around in some ways. I kind of feel that it would have made more sense to do the beginning and the final afterwards, but maybe that's just me. But again, really enjoyable films, and if they do release the DVDs of the final and the beginning, I probably will get them just to complete the Rurouni Kenshin DVD collection then. So yeah, again, definitely if you like sort of samurai style action movies, it's worth watching. Next up, going back to animation, I watched Bright Samurai Soul. I've never actually watched Bright, the movie. So again, I went into this film, or this animated film, not knowing anything about what to expect. It was a middle of the road watch for me. I didn't dislike it, but I wasn't absolutely in love with it that I'd want to watch it again and again. And maybe perhaps some of that's because I haven't got all that background on the story and on the world building. Next up, one I watched just last night actually with my husband, which was Svaha, the Sixth Finger. So this is a Korean horror-ish movie, I'd say. I'd say horror-ish because it's not scary horror. It's kind of demons background. This young girl has a twin sister who's supposedly a demon. And there's demon hunters, and then there's the main guy who is someone who goes around debunking religious cults. So he gets caught up in everything that's going on as well. So, excuse me, I'm just leaning around because I need a drink. There we go. This wasn't a bad movie. I watched it more for my husband than for myself. I probably wouldn't have picked it to watch on my own. But it was well acted. At times, I thought the story was going in a different direction than it ended up going, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I was left with a few questions by the end, but it concluded well enough that I was able to let them go. So if you're into sort of that sort of demon-based horror, but not scary, then it's worth checking out. Next up, I might talk about the other animation I watched. I'll just go back to Japanese for a minute. Swap and change between Japanese and Korean, but I'll go back to Japanese to say I watched Cowboy Bebop. Now this is the animation, the anime, not the new live action version. I'd never seen it, and I've heard a lot about it from different people over the years. So I figured I should give it a watch. Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the characters were interesting. I liked the story arc and the development they went through over the course of the series. And the episodes were fun in and of themselves with the sort of weekly adventure. It's not one that I'd rush to buy to rewatch again and again, but I'm glad I saw it and I enjoyed it. I've been hesitating over whether to try the live action one. I'm just waiting to hear a few more reviews first, but I might give it a go. We'll see. So now moving back to Korean series, just to finish. So I've got 3 more to tell you about. The first of those, I watched both seasons 1 and 2 of Stranger. So this is a crime drama, essentially. I don't want to give too much away, so I'm just hesitating. It was enjoyable. It's not the best of the crime dramas I've seen. I just felt the pacing was a little bit slow at times. Performances, no problem, though. They were all great. And I did have a query because the main male character has a kind of issue. He had brain surgery in his youth, and it means he doesn't really have a good sense of emotions anymore. And they introduced that, and I thought they would use that more in the show than they did. It came back once or twice as a mention, but I kind of felt that was a missed opportunity when you've introduced that, not to do more with it than they did. But otherwise, if you like that style of crime drama, it's definitely worth watching. In some ways, I liked season 2 more than season 1, I think. Perhaps, I enjoyed introducing the characters in season 1, but I found the overall story arc in season 2 a bit more compelling and interesting. So, but they were both good in their own ways. They both had plus points. They're not ones I'd rush to rewatch, but I'm happy I saw them the first time. So, moving on, I recently watched Hellbound. So this is just a short 6-episode Netflix-made series. I watched this one with my husband too, and the premise is angels appear and tell people that the date and time that they're going to die, and they tell them they're going to go to hell. And when that date and time comes, these sort of hellish figures do come and basically beat them up and then immolate them. And of course, various religious groups spring up around this. So it's a little bit of a slow burn series in some ways. It takes a little while to establish what's going on. But by the end, we're left with this huge cliffhanger ending that suggests the second series. And at the end, I was interested, based on what we learned over the course of those episodes, I was really interested to see where it would go next and how they would eventually explain everything that's going on. So if they bring a second series out, I'll definitely be watching it. It's a fairly graphically violent series, so just bear that in mind if you're going to watch. But it's definitely worth having a look at. And it's quite short, so it doesn't take too much time to watch either compared to some Korean series. And the final one I'll talk about is my favourite of the month, which is The Crowned Clown. So this is an historical drama, Joseon era drama in Korean, not based on historical events, just fictional, but excuse me, drink time. It always seems to happen as soon as I start doing these streams that I suddenly need to cough all the time. Something about talking to you all makes me cough. But coming back to The Crown Clown. So the premise of this one is there's a clown, so very, very lower class in the social ranking, but he happens to be the spitting image of the king, and the king is having a bit of a mental breakdown. So one of the ministers, with the king's approval, brings this guy into court and has him pretend to be the king. Obviously, there's the usual Joseon era court intrigue going on with various factions vying for power that he has to then navigate. And there's a romance element with the queen as well. So it was really enjoyable. This is one of those series where my husband poo-pooed it when I put it on. He was like, no, another Joseon thing. But yeah, he ended up getting sucked into it and watching most of it with me. So it was really good. I loved the performances. I liked the storyline. There was plenty of action and adventure and drama going on throughout the whole series. And it's definitely worth watching if you like historical Korean shows. So that brings us to the end. I have been watching a few other things too, but they're all series that are still ongoing. A couple of animes and a Japanese TV drama. So I will talk to you about those. I'm not sure exactly when they're finished. Hopefully next month. Next month, as I've said before, is going to be the last time I do these end of the month wrap-up live streams. As I've mentioned previously, they don't get a lot of watches and it's a bit of effort for me. So I'm thinking that instead I already do the books, put my book reviews up on my blog and on Instagram and that. So I'm thinking of just doing the same for TV and film. I'll definitely put them on Instagram. I haven't decided yet whether I'll do a blog post for them as well. Probably I will, but we'll just see how things work out timing-wise. But I'm thinking of just moving these kind of reviews onto a different platform than here, where they might get a few more views and a bit more interest. So as of next year, the only vlogs I'll be doing live stream will be my once a month language learning ones, unless something particular comes up that I want to talk about. So I will be back at the end of December, but that will be the final time you'll see me for these types of vlogs. So I hope you'll join me then. And in the meantime, I will be back in, give me 5-10 minutes or so, and I'll do my reading wrap up for the month as well. So on that note, I'll close, but I hope to see you all again soon. Bye, everyone.